I'll look up. Morning.
Good morning. It's July 13th, 2025.
Hard to believe July got here already.
Oh, I'm already halfway through. And our conversation this morning, our talk is about compassionate self-care. We often
uh,
hear about compassionate care when we care for others, and that's a good thing to do also. But many of us aren't really good at self-care, knowing what we need to do for ourselves when we're feeling a little stressed or distressed. And for many of us now, all we have to do is listen to some news and we are distressed. It's interesting to me how so many actions of some people can make half of our country so happy and half of our country so upset. But what do we do when we get upset with what's going on in the world? How do we care for ourselves?
we were thinking about that and coming up with different things that we do. And then I had this brainstorm of an idea, and I see the connection now. I looked up Rumi, and I thought Rumi quotes. And so I got 135 Rumi quotes. And I thought about it. I said, why Rumi? Well, I need to step out of the world I'm in and into the
Mm.
world of possibility. I need to step out of the world of I don't want to worry, which is worrying and saying I don't want to worry. It's not worrying. And so I started looking at the quotes, and when I started looking at them, I could not help but smile. One of the ones that I highlighted already is respond to every call that excites your spirit. Think about that. Respond to every call that excites your spirit. And how often do we not respond to a call that excites our spirit because we're busy worrying, or we're busy being upset, or we're busy thinking that life is just too difficult for us to respond to something that's positive? It's one of the benefits, for those of you that have a dog or a cat, is that you can be thinking about something and the dog or the cat will come to you, look up at you, and suddenly you're in another world. And that's really, really, really important. I love this one. You are not meant for crawling, so don't. You have wings. Learn to use them and fly. Think about that. Learn to use them and fly. You know, I've spent way too much of my life crawling without even thinking about it. And
And you thought you had to.
yeah, what's interesting too is that one of the things that a baby does as early as it can is it does its very best to stand. And and when it falls down, it doesn't say, I guess I was meant to crawl. When a baby falls down, the baby just takes his
Thank,
rubbery
thank God
take-
I'm rubbery.
yeah, takes his rubbery legs and gets back up again and keeps I'm walking, walking. I've never heard a baby say, I've been thinking about it. I fell 4 times yesterday. And
I'm
after that,
done trying.
yeah, I'm done trying, and from here on in, you're gonna have to walk me. And so, but we do that. I mean, think about the children. And one of the things that I thought about with Rumi is that in many ways, it's almost like a child.
Yes, it
There's
is.
a childlike innocence. And one of our favorite ones. Do you remember how it goes?
Yes, out beyond ideas of right doing and wrongdoing,
That's huge, right there, right beyond ideas of right doing and wrongdoing.
our judgment.
Yeah, so often we're caught up in is this right or is this wrong? And then he says there is a field.
There's a field. I'll meet you there.
Yeah, and there's such a wonderful sense of relief when you think about giving up the right or wrong and imagining the field and having it be your field of dreams. It doesn't have to have a baseball court or field, but thinking about that wonderful feeling when you enter into an open space that there's no judgment and there's nothing right and there's nothing wrong. But I like how he talks about right and wrong. He doesn't talk about just wrong. I think very often
Mhm.
we're preoccupied with what's right, which has us overwhelmed by what's wrong. And if we can let go of that even for a minute and say, I know right from wrong, and I'll do the best I can not to do wrong because it causes problems in my life and in other people's lives. But rather than that, I'm going to step away from that if I can and simply see how I can be. And I think that's really a compassionate thing because all judgments of right and wrong eventually come back to us.
Indeed. Yeah, that's one of my favorite ones. Um, and that goes back to what I was just saying. Half the country is happy about an action and the other half is we're furious about it, and so what's right and what's wrong? Because it really is half and half. So we have to understand that.
Yeah,
Uh,
absolutely.
but so our lives get really busy with often taking care of others and taking care of what has to be done. But self care is often the last thing we think about. Some of you, out of necessity, have learned you have to put self care first.
Mhm.
If you start feeling depressed or unable to function, or your self care comes first. You've got to pull yourself up before you can help anyone else or even be a functioning part of society. So, what is compassionate self care? Many of us aren't very skilled in it. And we were talking to some of our viewers before we got started here recording, and many of them are very skilled in doing what they need to do uh, to help themselves and help themselves feel more elevated, uplifted, and functioning well. One was talking about her AA friends who have been so helpful in so many ways, helping this person move, helping this person with transportation. They are wonderful friends. If you're in a 12-step program, these are very sincere people who are all about helping each other
So part of what you're saying is find people who are taking the same steps.
and who are supporting you,
Yeah, and that
who would support you.
maybe 12, it may be 50, but we're walking in the same distance, walking the same path that you're walking. One of the quotes that I love here is, "Only from the heart can you touch the sky."
Ah,
And that's really what AA is. It's coming from the heart. And you can't touch the sky worrying about the ground, worrying about or being grounded in fear. And so, one of the things we want to think about is what would my heart do in a situation like this if it were free and unladen with worry and concern. And I think we have a lot more heart conditions today because we haven't given our heart the conditionings that it needs, which is attention and love, really.
and we're not talking about just AA, we're talking about all the 12-step programs. And there are so many now because, people don't love you because you're perfect. They love you for your vulnerabilities. They love you for your honesty. And so when people are able to just say help, uh, it makes you very endearing and you become very good friends.
That makes me think that one of the ways to feel good is to be with people who love something more than the worries and upsets. I've been on Facebook looking at reels, and whenever you click on something and watch it, all of a sudden you get a bunch of those reels that match that. And so I've been watching lately Irish Wolfhounds. Before that, it was Greyhound Dogs, and before that, it was Dobermans. But what's really interesting is starting to listen to the community of people who love their animals and the conversations they're having from a place of love because they have found, no matter what the conditions are around them, something they can love and something in this case that loves them back. And every person who comes on with their dog, of course, their dog is the dog of all dogs. And really what they're saying is this is a place where my heart is open. And when my heart is open, somehow things are different. Somehow things are better. And that's really important. If you can find groups of people or that I think that love something enough that they get excited about it, then you can join them in that love.
Exactly. And it doesn't have to be just dogs. Cats are also very loving.
We saw not an
Pets,
anthropologist. What do they call persons looking for bones?
paleontologists.
Paleontologist. Yeah, we saw a special on Nova. I think it was paleontologists, and to look at their excitement when they found bones that were thousands of years old. I mean, here they are out in the middle of the desert, and in a place I would never
Digging in
go,
heat.
on their knees, something that I would rarely want to do, digging in dirt, which is not something that I want to do either. And they're excited. The heat doesn't bother them, the conditions don't bother them. Nothing bothers them because of the love they have for what they're doing. And so I want to go back to that. And what is something that you love that maybe you haven't been doing? What is something that you love that you could pull out and take a second look at and say, maybe I could do more of that, because we need something as big that we love as is the thing that we're upset about that is in front of us all too often, bothering or annoying or making life a challenge for us.
Exactly. So, what I'm trying to think of some of the other things. Another one of our participants loves to sing and loves to dance, and so she uh, participates in many groups that love to do the same thing, and it just brings her such joy. That's what we need to overcome um, things that we just find irritating and frustrating, and we can't do anything about.
Yeah, that actually brings to mind another one of Rumi's quotes is when you do things from your soul, you feel a river moving in you, a joy. And that sounds like dancing. When you do things from your soul, you feel a river moving in you, a
Mm.
joy. It's really, really powerful. And I think when this person ever, whenever she talks about dance, that she never talks about it without having a smile,
That's
which is
right.
really interesting. Those things go together.
So another participant said she likes walking. And
Yeah.
I too love walking in nature. I love walking under trees, but not in our summers here in Florida. I go to the air conditioned gym in the summertime, but if you can walk in nature, it is really rejuvenating. Rejuvenating. I
Yeah.
do believe there are energies and all of the living plants and they feed us. So when you can, or the beach, I believe she lives near the
Yeah.
beach. To walk on the beach, we already know that there are even what do they call them, positive ions that are
Mhm.
emitted from the surf. But all of those things are a good way to get yourself out of your head and go do something. Go do.
One that struck me was sit, be still, and listen. And I thought how often I sit and I be still and I do not listen.
Or listen to your own
That's
inner
exactly,
chatter,
yeah,
right?
exactly I'm not listening for a universe. I'm not listening to what's in front of me. I'm listening to what's behind me and projecting it in front of me. And, so often, we're looking for that field and we continually put ourselves in the middle of a jungle of thought. And,
Right, right.
we think we need a machete to get through it when really what we need to do is to be still and notice and listen. And, I know when I go to work in the morning, I go out and every morning, in fact, if it doesn't happen, I feel bad. I listen to the mockingbirds and I take just another extra few steps and wait before I get in the car to listen to what song are they singing today. And I've noticed over the period of months that I've never heard the same song twice, which is
They're
really
amazing.
so either they're really amazing with their repertoire of songs or they have really poor memory.
They are fun. We're so glad we have them just in our front yard here. Um, so naturally, when Bob talks about sitting and listening, we're also talking about meditation. And of
Absolutely.
course, meditation is a great way to clear your mind and receive inspiration and guidance even sometimes. But it does require, stopping your own self-talk and just listening.
Yeah.
So that is a wonderful practice that really needs to be done daily for self-care, especially in these turbulent times. And they are turbulent. Uh, there's things going on all at once right now that any single one of them is disturbing. So I came across some practices from heart math, and I thought they were very good. They say one of the most effective approaches for navigating through these chaotic times is to engage in the core qualities of love in our day-to-day interactions. And of course, we all know that, but sometimes in our busyness, you're not thinking about love, but we need to. It's important to prove to ourselves love's effectiveness. And as we put out love, we accumulate more love within our system, meaning the whole planetary system. And this is one of the best approaches for both our personal awakening and our own upliftment. Practicing the qualities of love with each other has been proven in research studies to create positive effects on our mental, emotional, and physical natures and in our relationships. So, some of the practices that Heart Math re- recommends is number one, breathing into your heart and then breathing out from your heart. And it's a way of putting focus on your heart, your feeling, not the heart that pumps the blood, although that's where it is, but the feeling part, the heart chakra. And so that's a practice that you can do. Just close your eyes and just breathe in and out into your heart and out of your heart. And it just has your focus on heart and heart love. And it's very calming. Um, Other practices are practicing loving kindness and compassionate listening. Compassionate listening is where you really try to lessen your own comments and just listen to a
Where
person.
you tune into what the heart of what they're saying rather than the content, where you
Mhm.
listen for what's happening to them and what's happening to you in relationship to that. And it's really important. A part of that, I work in a facility when I'm not involved in ministry, in which I work with people who are having some serious mental health issues, and they don't want to be in the area where they are in the program where I am. They don't like having to deal with the illness that they have. And every morning when I go in, I greet each of them and say, "Good morning. How are you doing today? What's happening to you today? I'm glad to see you today." And what I was struck with is I was out sick one day, and I heard when I came back, the clients were all asking, "Where's Bob?" And not because I did something in particular that was insightful or helped them with their illness, but because of the very thing you're saying, that the asking them how they are and listening to them meant something to them, and it then meant something to me. Because what we're also talking about is when you give like that, you get back like that. It becomes part of the wake of good that follows you and pushes you and can support you. And I would not have guessed that I actually also missed the opportunity to greet the people that I greet because they're part of my life too.
See, another recommendation is love in the form of patience supports our ability to manage our own energies from a place of ease, especially when we hear people say things that we don't agree with or situations we don't like. In our hearts, we know that patience is important, but it's still easy to let impatience overtake us. So it's time to take back our power and practice patience.
Something we've been doing too when the news gets too difficult to watch and it's painful, but we don't want to not watch it. We've been watching the Comedy Central and what is it? I'm trying to remember the name of the
The
program now.
daily.
The Daily Show. The Daily Show, the only news worth listening to. And but what they're doing, which I really love, is not necessarily supporting our position that we might have around anything in particular, but taking the things that are the most distressing and having us all find a way to laugh as opposed to cry. And the action we can take sometimes is to see the humor in a thing or the absurdity of a thing rather than to jump on it and criticize it and judge it. So it's that shift in perspective. It's entering into it with a kind of happy, awakened self as opposed to, yeah, here we go again. And I think sometimes our preparation for the bad makes it worse. Our mental preparation. Oh, here's so and so again. I can't believe what he's going to say or do, or that she's going to say or do. And that attitude just reinforces whatever they say and do for us to feel worse than we would normally feel. Do you have more?
Indeed.
While you're doing that, set your lamp on fire. Seek those who fan your flames. I love that. Set your lamp on fire. Seek those who fan your flames.
Seek other people who fan your flames.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
Yes, indeed. And that's a good one in itself, getting together with other people. Because if too much of your time is home alone, especially if you're home alone watching the news, it can become a very depressing place.
yeah.
So getting together with other people is very important, and talk about other things other than politics and what's going on in the world. Um, because it is a little stressing with what's going on in the world climate wise, with the natural disasters and everything. And I find myself wanting to protect myself from hearing that all the time. And yet I do want to know about natural disasters and what's going on. But we just have to send love to all those people and know that really they are off to a better
Yeah.
place. But it can be hard to hear.
I want to send this one out to the person who likes to dance. This is another Rumi quote. Dance until you shatter yourself. You know, he takes in stride breaking up your own self and the way you have yourself put together and the way you believe everybody else should be put together. And he says, just give up on that. I know you're tired, but come, this is the way.
Well, Rumi, is a Sufi,
Yeah,
and they do dance. They dance a twirling, hypnotic kind of dance. It's
yeah.
really beautiful if you've ever seen it. It's very specific, and they're all going around in a circle, each doing their own circle, but going around in a circle. It's magnificent, and it's very meditative. So that's the kind of dancing he's talking about.
Well, he's also talking about it metaphorically.
True.
Dance in your heart, dance with
Dance
your
in your
mind.
life.
Allow yourself to have to make graceful moves that feel good to you, that enrich and empower, and it will shatter the old ideas. You notice when you're upset that there's a kind of rigidity that follows that or that is a part of that. And when you start laughing, what happens is your body lightens up and it loosens up. And so laughter, music, a conversation, not taking yourself too seriously.
So our time is up. It is, and so uh, we want to take this time now to go to our screen share to remind you. Where's the screen share of our request that you share also through donations to our Center for Spiritual Living of the Palm Beaches. And we know many of you do this monthly, and we appreciate it. So we know that we are supported generously and able to continue this corporation of CSL of the Palm Beaches.org. So we like to say this affirmation as you give, because you go to our website, which is right here, CSL Palm Beaches, and then up here, ways to donate. We'll show you how you can donate. And we like to say this affirmation because we do believe that as you give, you do receive. And so it's important to keep the circulation going. And we receive in kind. So when we give of our finances, of our money, we get more finances back to us. So let's say this. My investment today is made with the full realization that God is the source of my supply and returns it to me enriched and multiplied. And so it is.
And we're going to stop the share. So,
The red,
yeah,
the red.
we wanted to put us